Okay.
Trends.
Okay. Vuoi cominciare?
Okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Welcome in the Economics and Law building of UNIMC, just inaugurated after the restoration due to the last earthquake here in Italy, here in Macerata, and this is perfectly aligned with this project. I'm very happy for the presence of Katiuscia Cassetta, Councilor for Culture and University of the Municipality of Macerata, and thank you for your presence, and our Rector of the University di Macerata, Professor John McCourt. Thank you. And I'm happy for the attendance of all the RETOURN partners, Europe Unlimited, ACME, Italo-Hellenic Chamber of Commerce, Umbria Chamber of Commerce, PaperLab, CPU, University of Maribor, and Tribec. As you know, as the partners know, the aim of the project was to structure, implement, test, and disseminate the recovery tourism after disaster training program centered on tourism disaster management and the restoration of the tourist image after the advent of a natural disaster. And the path we worked on consists of face-to-face teaching sessions, open education resources, and laboratory activities aimed at learning techniques and practices of emergency strategy making in complex, uncertain, and disruptive contexts, such as those that have suffered natural disasters. Today, Marta Giovannetti is presenting our project and results. This is the final event. And we have distinguished guests from the national scene that will speak. Thank you, Rosaria del Balzo Ruiti, representative of the Italian Red Cross, crucial in these events. Yeah, in Macerata. Yeah, of course, in Macerata. Giambattista Tofoni, co-founder of RisorgiMarche, the ethical and sustainable music festival born following the earthquake in central Italy to bring music and landscape affected by disasters. Then Emanuele Vietina, that is online. Thank you, Emanuele. Director of Lucca Crea, organization of the well-known festival Lucca Comics, dedicated to comics, animation, and video games, which in the last edition was affected by flooding. And finally, Nicola Cabria, online, I think, WEGA Formazione, active in various territorial and post-disaster reconstruction. And these, their speeches will be followed by Marina Gigliotti that will speak about dark tourism. She's from the University of Perugia. Then Eleonora Cutrini and Mara Cerquetti, University of Macerata. Thank you for your presence, for the resilience of museum structures in the post-disaster. And finally, Davide Di Marco Berardino from the Polytechnic University of Marche, that will speak about the impacts of the disaster on the territorial economic system with the case of the Marche flood in 2022. Thank you to everybody for being here. And I give the floor, I think, to Grazie, Marta. I don't know who is.
Katiuscia Cassetta, to the Councilor. Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your invitation. And I try to speak in English language. I'm sorry, John. I find. Good afternoon, everyone. As the Councilor for Culture of the City of Macerata, I bring the greetings of the entire administration and thank all of you for attending the final event of the RETOURN project, a fundamental program for the cultural and tourism development of our territory. I also thank you, the University of Macerata, for the attention given to the territory, thus creating opportunities for networking and relancing in all fields. The RETOURN project aims to modernize training provision for education and training by developing a path to develop the skills and the capacities needed to more rapidly facilitate and recover tourism development in areas affected by natural disasters, creating the figure of the tourism recovery expert. The impact of natural disasters on tourism is well known. I'm sorry, we know. And the Marche region suffered the consequence of the 2017 earthquake and the COVID pandemic that contracted tourist flows globally. But the development of the new ideas and the best practices involving all the stakeholders in the area may be the key to dealing with any disasters in the future. The hope is that the project will be beginning of a successful path of exchanging knowledge and know-how for our mutual cultural enrichment so that culture can be in support of a spreading tourism in the area that leads to an increasing conscious fruition of our artistic heritage. Thank you again for your invitation, and I will stay here until I can, because I have some appointment later. Thank you and good work.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And now the rector, Professor John McCurt from University of Macerata, our rector now.
Grazie a tutti. Parlo io in italiano, giusto per... Lo so, però inizio in italiano. Se non ti dispiace, voglio ringraziare l'assessore per la sua presenza e per la vicinanza all'Ateneo, importante. Voglio salutare Rosaria del Balzo, che pure lei è sempre vicino al nostro Ateneo, eppure in questo contesto di oggi ha molte cose da dirci, credo interessanti, e saluto anche Giambattista Tofoni e ringrazio tutti gli ospiti che sono qui presenti e colgo l'occasione per congratularmi con Elena Cedrola, che ieri è stata rieletta direttrice del Dipartimento di Economia e Diritto. Un applauso. It's always good to be able to congratulate someone who has been in a job for 3 years and can continue to work and to bring to fruition all of the work of the first 3 years of her mandate. So the best of luck for the next 3 years, and I look forward to working with you. I'm happy to be at this event, RETOURN, Recovery Tourism After Natural Disasters. It's an event which is all too necessary in this region and is part of a general reflection, I think, that's ongoing at all levels, academic and political, and in the società civile, civil society. I'm so used to speaking in Italian that we have to try and translate lots of good ideas and lots of projects into very concrete acts in order to help the region recover from a series of disasters, earthquakes, floods, COVID, and the continuing quiet disaster, which is the depopulation of the region, in particular the area away from the sea, because this is in the long term going to be a huge issue for the sustainability of the region and of the entire country, in fact, because the population fall is going to create a series of challenges for all of us, including for the universities of this region. However, I don't want to focus too much on disasters. I think it's better to focus on recovery, on rebuilding, and a huge amount has already been done in terms of rebuilding. But having rebuilt structures and continuing to rebuild structures and buildings and the historical heritage, we need to make sure that they can live, that they can prosper, and that there is a population living in these towns and particularly in the internal part of the Marche. And I think tourism, cultural tourism in particular, is one of the ways in which this can happen, and we can bring new life back to our region. So in this, with this in mind, our university and many colleagues are involved on a daily basis in doing research in this and in collaborating with different parts of the market to try and create projects and put together the infrastructure for a relaunch, which is necessary. As always, it's a work in progress, but it's one I think that that is absolutely essential. Yesterday, I had a meeting online with a group called the Friends of RisorgiMarche, which is a group in London, who are interested in also trying from outside to inject some, I think, trust and faith and optimism into the debate and into our vision of the future. And also this is very important. So I was told just to bring a short saluto. I've gone on too long already. So vi saluto cordialmente, and I hope you have a very useful afternoon of exchanges and a fitting end to the program and the project that you have been carrying out over the last period. So thank you very much. Buon lavoro.
Thank you to Marta Giovannetti that is presenting the project, and we have the Italian group, the Macerata group, that did a lot of work on this. Grazia Lipomi, then Barbara Culaga and Elisa Ballini. Thank you for your work. And thank you, Marta.
Thank you, Prof. Okay. So I have the pleasure, the honor of summarizing almost 3 years of work on this project. And we wanted to give you an overview of what we did in the last 30 months. And then we will proceed as per the agenda with our guests from the institution, NGO, and our colleague academics. So, okay, I would like to start with a video that was provided by Pepe Lab in the last experience that we had together here in Macerata, because we had the chance to spend some time together to get trained ourselves. So I have a small trailer of our project that was developed in that occasion that I would like to show you now. Okay, so this was the premise behind the project, and I really thank Pepe Lab for providing us with exceptional, communication material along the project implementation. Of course, it's not liking it. Okay. So the project duration was 30 months. So we started the project at the very end of 2021. We kicked off the project in Ljubljana a couple of months later, and we are now approaching the end of the project. We anticipated a bit the actual end of the project for our meeting today for the final conference. Essentially, when the project was thought and designed in 2020, we started searching and trying to tackle which were the gaps in the actual formation of people already working in the tourism sector, and also people studying business and tourism subjects at universities. And we found out that the pain points were actually under this matter, tourism risk, crisis management, tourism revival, and digital marketing strategies, along with ethics and tourism. So we started from these premises in trying to enrich these people's backgrounds with our project. So we wanted to create a training program in which we tackled in particular these key aspects, but also some further ones that we discover being very relevant. So again, the aim of the project was to design, develop, and put to practice a training program in which there was a mix of face-to-face teaching sections, open educational resources, which are typically referred to as e-learning, and also some laboratory activities that were provided through serious play, active learning approaches in order to stimulate not only critical thinking, but also how to put into practice immediately those knowledge that were acquired. It was intended at the beginning to involve at least 65 individuals in our reference countries. And I'm now presenting in detail, again, the partnership. We have all of the partners present today. So we have, of course, University of Macerata, which is the leading partner that was supported and that co-worked during this project with ACMI from Greece, Associazione Culturale Pepe Lab, the Italo-Hellenic Chamber of Commerce, from Greece, Europe Unlimited from Germany, CPU from Slovenia, Tribab from Hungary, Umbria Chamber of Commerce from Italy, and University of Maribor from Slovenia. So this is a bit of a memory lane for us because we saw each other. We had our kickoff meeting in Ljubljana in April 2022. Sorry, there is a typo. And then we saw each other and worked in Thessaloniki, Heinsberg, Budapest, and then finally we were here in Macerata. This is a picture from yesterday, and there was we had also the honor to have a preview on some projects that the municipality of Macerata and were allowing us to see. Besides this light design installation, we had the occasion to see also some the Mercato delle Erbe, which will be inaugurated very soon. So thank you for our first premiere into that spaces. That was a very enchanting experience. Yeah, and so this is in sum what were the activities and the timeline that we followed during the project. So typically Erasmus Plus VET projects are divided in PRs, project results, and in semesters or in tranches of work, let's say. Every single PR was coordinated by one partner in particular. So we started the project with University of Macerata coordinating the creation of competence framework for the tourism recovery expert. Then PR2 was coordinated by University of Maribor, which is the design and of the structure of the new interdisciplinary teaching in recovery tourism after natural disasters and content development. Then we had PR3, the realization of the online platform for the project and realization of the open educational resources that was coordinated by Europe Unlimited. And finally, piloting of the new training program and SWOT analysis post-natural disaster, which was coordinated by CPU. I would like to summarize the actual content of every single PR. We also, during the project, we have fantastic inputs from our graphic designer, which was Martin from Europe Unlimited, that during our meetings enriched also the visuals of our project with these fantastic sketches that guided us into the design and the implementation of what we were doing. So essentially in PR1, what we needed to do was starting from the problems, the issues that were prominent and which were the gaps that people in tourism were missing. And so we tried to analyze and understand which were these gaps and pain points and try to summarize those gaps in a proper profile of the tourism recovery expert that we then needed to train. So we started from a little research design in which we try to, in every single country involved, we try to summarize the implicit and explicit needs of those territories affected by natural disasters. And we then try to transform and summarize those contributions into the contents and the features that were attributed to the tourism recovery expert, which is TRE. We summarize our profile in this way. So we started from this. What is actually the perception from those territories of the impact of the natural disaster? Well, in the short term, the territory, of course, hit by natural disasters suffers from image damage and economic loss, whereas in the longer medium term, you have to tackle, of course, the structural and infrastructural damage. So what is the dimension of reaction? How can a territory restart and rebuild itself after a natural disaster? Of course, there is a moment in which there is discouragement and lack of confidence by the various stakeholders living and working in the areas affected. And then in the medium long term, the need is to do reconstruction and innovation. But between these two dimensions, we identified the gaps. So what's missing? In the short term, there is the sense of loneliness of local communities, of businesses. And so there is the need, in a way, to find a response to this. And also in the medium and long term, a tourism recovery expert should maybe provide and respond to these needs in terms of reconstruction that must be prompt and fast and adequate to the actual needs of the territory. So actually, starting from these gaps, we provided profile. So the tourism recovery expert is able to do, in the short term, psychological support, coordination of information, building stakeholder network, and managing public-private relations. In the medium and long term, this person should be able to assess the situation, define solutions, manage solidarity, create new way of cooperating and development, develop a strategy and implement the strategy with stakeholders, manage and increase the economic resources of the territory, and then manage the prevention activities. Then, when we had further developed our profile, what we did was, thanks to the coordination of University of Maribor, design the actual program. So here in Heinsberg, we were hybrid as a meeting, and we were discussing the implementation of this program, the training program. And finally, what we end up having was a learning program based on these 5 different modules. So we specified from the competences that were needed, the content of the modules and single units. So we grouped them in support to emergency first response, recovery marketing strategy, destination management after disaster, ethical and sustainable tourism, recovery communication. So we divided the topics in based on own expertise or preference, let's say, and we also structured the learning programs in hours of classes. So if you see 3 plus 6 with a total of 9. It's the amount of hours that we dedicated to classes, to individual study, and to as a whole. So we designed not only the content, but also the time allocation to provide recognition in every single university or education and training system for the learners. So that's what we did in Peer 2. And then we moved to Peer 3. So these that you see are the actual modules, a unit that we then developed for the e-learning platform that was developed by, coordinated by Europe Unlimited. So we made this choice of embedding the education section within the main website of RETOURN. So if you go to return.eu and you go to the education section, you can access our educational platform. And the platform, of course, is free to access. Everybody can register themselves, and so every single content is free under registration, and you can pick and choose which is the language that you would like to be trained with. We have the partnership languages, of course, and English as default setting. These are the boxes to fill in if you want to register. And yeah, we also wanted to enrich the experience with some videos introducing the single modules that we developed also with the help of Pepe Lab in this case. I just show you one of these trailers very quickly. Okay, so we provided the platform also with these trailers to make it more interactive. And yes, these are the 5 modules. And then in the PR4, last but not least, we needed to put everything into life, to put into action what we had developed so far. So we had various phases, even in the PR4, we had the design, implementation, and evaluation. So at the beginning, we detailed further which were the characteristics of the trainees that we wanted to involve. So of course, we have both universities, training institutions, and chambers of commerce. So we needed to decide in which country we wanted to implement, in which way. And we had this indication of having 65 people divided per countries, but okay. But then we needed to understand how we want to involve them and so on. So there was this stage 1 in which we defined the details, and then we also had the LTT experience. So we got trained as trainers in September, thanks to the coordination of FIPLab. We will see some details very soon. And then we opened the call, and we selected these trainees. And then we had them have the experience of both the learning platform and the workshops. And then we will be preparing the national and general reports in these weeks and months. The learning, teaching, training activities was a moment where we walk in someone else's shoes for a while, in the sense that we got involved here in Macerata from Pepe Lab, and we got trained by experts in active learning and lean management. And so we learned how to think out of the box and to acquire the instruments that allowed us then to perform the workshops and to activate that emergent strategy making and critical thinking in our learners once we got back home. And so this is the picture of last September, and these were the many activities we did in the 5 days of LTT. So what we did was going from the profile design to the learning by thinking, building knowledge in the learning platform and modules by learning by acting with the experiential learning that we provided with workshops. So coming to a couple of initial results from the platform, we checked these days the fact that we have reached our basic goal, even if we are still undergoing the piloting. So some partners are still performing the piloting. We have finished that as Italians, but for example, we have 65 people on the platform for Italy, 11 for Greece, 1 for Hungary at the moment, but they're performing the piloting in these weeks, and also 25 for Slovenia and 14 for Germany. So we already have reached these targets of having at least the people subscribed that we needed, but we would like to have hundreds of people that attend the return course on our website if possible. So one aspect was the actual platform, and then we had this SWOT analysis. Why was the SWOT analysis chosen? It's a pretty known strategic thinking and management tool, which in this case is used for our businesses, stakeholders, and students to activate their strategic thinking and planning, and to summarize the stimuli coming from the territory affected by the natural disaster in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So why is it particularly important for us to establish this link between tourism and the territory? Well, because really tourism is very often the expression and the synthesis of the many aspects comprising of a territory, because the territory has hard components, which are infrastructure, environment, buildings, businesses, and the natural landscape, but there are also the soft components. And so the services, experiences, relationship, the culture and tradition, it's really the mix of the specific elements that every individual territory expresses that ultimately forms its identity. So we wanted to propose the fact that a territory hit by natural disasters can maybe stop and think, okay, who are we? What is this territory? What is the best that we can express? And maybe start from new, or start from what they are, what they can show best from what they got already. So this link between territory and tourism was particularly relevant for us in finding the vocation of every single territory, even for attracting tourism, but of course also tackling the community living and working in those territories. So the post-disaster territory management must be managed according to a systematic approach, a strategic approach, and we also would like to enhance the fact that a SWOT analysis approach also entails a participatory approach towards the territory. So if the learner and then further comes back to the territory, I can have a particular approach of intercepting every single stakeholder point of view and contribution to the reconstruction. Okay, this is really a precious input for reconstruction. And so in the SWOT analysis, what we proposed was analyze the environmental factor and classificate them in a positive and negative. Then these factors were classified in terms of importance or perceived risk. And then finally, the SWOT analysis was composed, as we mentioned, of strengths, weaknesses from the local territory and the opportunities and threats coming from the external environment. Of course, this model has some pros because allows the tourism recovery expert and the local stakeholders really to have a moment of reflection that is really tied to what the territory expresses. So we would like to eliminate those situations where, okay, funding or help is coming, but that's not tied to what's the actual need of the territory. Of course, this model is nice, but it's complex, so it has some needs, some premises to be addressed that are a new logic, but this new open logic allows, let's say, yes, to be participatory and also to tackle with what is sustainable and ethical tourism and the new economy features that are very sought after nowadays. And so we wanted to show you the occasions that we already had to perform these SWOT analysis workshops. This is this same table, this same room, you may recognize it. So we had a couple of days of training with our students in University of Macerata, and we also have already some pictures from our Slovenian colleagues that performed this SWOT analysis in University of Maribor, and the others will come very soon, and we hope that you will be seeing and appreciating those in our social media and website when they had them. And so far, as I was saying, the project is still work in progress, but we are looking forward to share the results, the feedbacks, and also the impact that we could have on territories, on businesses, and on students. I would like to announce the fact that we put our best effort to summarize our research as well. So we presented the initial results of the project in the conference in Dubai, the AGBRP conference, in the marketing. That's a type of International Marketing Trends Conference in Paris in 2023. We are also working on a paper article that will be soon submitted to Journal of Destination Marketing and Management. And we're also working on a chapter on tourism safety, security, and resilience with a focus on the community-based approach. And we're also performing dissemination events in every country that we are active at the moment. So we are also collecting more and more expectation and feedbacks from not only our beneficiaries of the training, but also by local communities. So we would like to enrich as much as we can our project and the possible impact that we might have on those. So I really thank you for the attention, and now I'm very excited to leave the floor to our guest speakers. So thank you for now, and we'll appreciate your ideas and feedbacks on this. Thank you. Ok, allora, vediamo un attimo, la dottoressa del Balzo Ruiti vuole intervenire lei. So we have moved a bit the agenda. Ok, lei aveva delle slide che deve proiettare? Ha delle slide che deve proiettare? No, ok. Allora guardi, le metto. Ok, just one second. You can come to the table in the meantime that I fix this. Okay, so I would like to introduce Dr. Rosaria del Balzo Ruiti from the Italian Red Cross in Macerata, which is also supported by our dear translator for her contribution. Grazie.
Vi comprende in inglese, ma vi ammorberebbe se parlasse inglese, quindi parliamo in italiano. Buon pomeriggio, sono da 25 anni la presidente della Croce Rossa di Macerata e sono una portatrice sana di un modello esperienziale di disastri naturali per un duplice ordine di motivo. Viviamo nelle Marche. La provincia di Macerata è una provincia, come una buona parte delle Marche, ad altissimo rischio sismico. Quindi anche con, purtroppo, siamo italiani, incrociando le dita e facendo i debiti scongiuri, ogni tot numero di anni dobbiamo fare i conti con dei terremoti che in questi ultimi anni sono stati peraltro degli eventi epocali, perché di una forza e di una gravità veramente unica. Modello esperienziale perché in 25 anni di sismi, di disastri naturali ne ho vissuti personalmente e con l'associazione che mi onoro di presiedere moltissimi. Parliamo dal lontano per rimanere negli ultimi tempi terremoto dell'Aquila del 1996 per arrivare a poi del 1996 del terremoto di Serravalle dei Chienti e l'ultimo del 2016. La Croce Rossa interviene immediatamente, quindi il mio è un modello esperienziale che è nell'immediato del soccorso, ma poi l'attività si prolunga negli anni e nel tempo. Posso dire che dal terremoto del 2016 che ha colpito Amatrice, poi l'Ascolano e il Maceratese in maniera molto profonda, vorrei per capire che si evidenziasse questo particolare. Nella provincia di Macerata all'epoca su 54 comuni della provincia di Macerata ben 47 furono ricompresi nel cratere sismico, quindi immaginate la vastità dell'evento.
So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, actually. I understand English, but I'm not going to talk in English because you're going to be bored if I do. So I'm going to speak Italian and then I'm going to be translated. I have been the president of the Red Cross for Macerata for 25 years, and I have a lot of experience related to natural disasters, especially because the first reason why is because in our region, and especially in the province of Macerata, we have a really high risk of having earthquakes. So every few years we are having earthquakes, especially in the last few years, where the earthquakes that we had have been really, really strong. And I personally have seen a lot of disasters, natural disasters in these 25 years. And we can start with the 1996 earthquakes here in the region. Then we had the one in Serravalle, in Chieti, and then the last one in 2016. My personal experience in natural disasters relief is then we act immediately after the disaster happens, but the activities go on even after that. So I'm thinking also about the 2016 earthquakes that happened near the area of the cities of Amatrice, of Ascoli, of Macerata. And just to let you know, in these earthquakes in the province of Macerata, 47 towns, 47 municipalities out of the 54 municipalities in total were really struggling and were really hit hard by this earthquake.
Naturalmente nell'immediatezza del sisma è normale, io ricordo perfettamente sia, non vorrei ma vorrei che percepiste la difficoltà del momento del post sisma. Io ricordo perfettamente la scossa che riguardò la provincia di Macerata in particolare, quindi nell'ottobre del 2016, era una serata da tregenda, veramente sembrava che poi anche i fenomeni atmosferici stessero cambiando le loro connotazioni nell'imminenza di un evento così drammatico. Voi capite, piccoli paesi di montagna, l'Alto Maceratese, piccoli paesi con piccole strutture, per esempio delle piccole, limitate nel numero, case di riposo, che dovemmo evacuare in una notte. In quei momenti c'è bisogno di mettere in salvo le vite umane, perché questa è la priorità e questo è quello che è stato fatto, con un grande errore. Io mi sento di poterlo affermare con un modello, con anni di esperienza. In questo caso, nell'ultimo terremoto, e questo è un know-how che deriva proprio dall'aver valutato le varie situazioni, tutte le persone sono state dislocate, prese dai loro comuni e portate lungo la costa, portate in luoghi di accoglienza lontano dalle loro abitazioni. Un errore che si è rivelato fatale. Per le persone anziane, inutile evidenziare che un distacco così forte ha creato una sorta veramente di quasi di destabilizzazione caratteriale, umorale, comportamentale, per cui nell'arco di qualche mese sono persone che hanno anche perso la vita lontane dalle loro montagne, lontane dai panorami delle loro finestre, ma anche le famiglie che, estrapolate da un paese dell'alta montagna in cui i ragazzi vivevano tranquillamente, portati lungo la costa perché c'era una maggiore ricettività, hanno affrontato un modello di vita completamente diverso da aver cambiato quelle che sono le loro prospettive dell'esistere. Non ritorneranno mai più, si sono radicati in altri luoghi e non ritorneranno più nei loro luoghi originari. Questo è stato l'errore, secondo me, colossale della gestione di questo disastro naturale degli ultimi tempi. In quelli precedenti venivano immediatamente, nell'arco di pochi giorni dopo aver affrontato l'emergenza, venivano preparati dei campi base, delle strutture in cui le persone, le famiglie rimanevano nei loro luoghi di origine, e questo conservava la liaison, il legame ancestrale con il territorio, con tutto il resto, da non consentire poi questo distacco. Veramente, lasciatemelo dire, una diaspora pericolosissima da tutti i punti di vista, da un punto di vista ambientale, culturale, sociale, emotivo, un territorio spezzato.
So as I was saying, my task is to deal with the emergency immediately after a natural disaster strikes. And I remember, for example, the earthquake in October 2016, especially in the province of Macerata. It was a really dramatic event. Even you could see the weather changing as a signal that something was going to change in a dramatic way. And I want you to visualize the situation. We were a really small town in the mountains, and also the infrastructure was really small. So we had to evacuate the people. The priority was to save human lives, and this is something that we have done. However, we made a fatal mistake, because in these earthquakes, a lot of people were moved to the coastal areas, so far away from where they used to live. And this, as I was saying, was a mistake. For example, elderly people that were moved to a different part of the region were really destabilized under a behavioral point of view, under a social point of view. And in the next few months, a lot of people also lost their lives, and because they were not feeling safe anymore. They were destabilized, and they lost their lives also far away from where they used to live. And also the families with children, with teenagers that were forced to leave their homes and to move to the coastal area. And now they live there, and they are educated now in another place. And this is a mistake, because these people are not moving back anymore. And this is something that was done differently from the other emergencies that I've seen, because normally in the few days after the emergency, we try to build a base camp where people can stay and can live. So in this way, we could preserve the link to the territory, because the people could keep on living in the same area. And in this case, where we moved the people, we had a lot of problems also related to the cultural point of view, the environmental, and also the social point of view. So it was really a huge mistake.
E oltretutto consideriamo anche un discorso pesante da un punto di vista di ricadute nel comparto economico di queste zone. L'Alto Maceratese come l'Alto Ascolano, parliamo di zone di montagna, paesi straordinari, meravigliosi, piccoli paesini, ricchi di tesori architettonici, culturali, chiese meravigliose. Ogni piccolo paese aveva il suo tesoro architettonico da conservare. Non c'è stata una visione d'insieme, lo dico perché siamo vissuti per tanti anni, ancora siamo in quelle zone, quindi andavano fatti tutti gli sforzi necessari per sostenere le attività, piccole attività artigianali, economici, allevatori, piccoli contadini, piccole strutture del patrimonio enogastronomico straordinario di tutta la nostra regione, dell'Italia, ma in particolare della nostra regione, che andavano immediatamente potenziate ed aiutate senza essere costretti a una chiusura, a una dislocazione e ad una eventuale riapertura in un secondo momento. Ricordo, senza voler dare a questa mia testimonianza, che all'epoca era anche in un altro ruolo che poi vi racconterò, ricordo perfettamente che il primo commissario al sisma era stato il governatore della regione Emilia Romagna, Errani, il quale purtroppo Errani, mi sta suggerendo l'assessore Cassetta, il quale aveva gestito il sisma nell'Emilia Romagna, ma in una realtà economica completamente differente. Parliamo di industrie, di grandi apparati industriali sul territorio, non il piccolo allevatore con la stalla da poter far continuare. Peraltro il terremoto ci fu alla fine di ottobre, inizi di novembre, si avvicinava una stagione invernale, e allora le stagioni invernali in alta montagna comportano anche dei problemi, tra virgolette, climatici non indifferenti. Secondo me, e questa è un'opinione, ma proprio nella logica di cui vogliamo parlare, il sisma che avremmo dovuto imparare a studiare tanti anni prima, con tutte le sue conseguenze, non è servito neanche questa volta a renderci partecipi e a monitorare le reali esigenze di un territorio che va invece potenziato senza essere depauperato. A volte un terremoto così devastante, che credetemi ha anche cambiato l'apparenza dei luoghi, affacciarsi dalla finestra in uno dei paesi dell'Alto Maceratese, ve ne dico uno, Castel Sant'Angelo sul Nera, per chi era di quei luoghi, significava aprire una finestra e trovare un panorama cambiato, cambiato nell'orografia delle montagne, cambiato nello skyline delle colline, cambiato perché è stato veramente un terremoto che ha mutato il corso dei fiumi, quindi rendiamoci conto della violenza di un sisma di questo genere. Poteva essere una grande occasione, è come in tutte le cose della nostra vita che a volte da un elemento travolgente, devastante, si può rinascere con presupposti migliori. Questo purtroppo, lo dobbiamo dire sotto gli occhi di tutti, da noi non è stato. E attendo la traduzione e vi racconto un'altra importante testimonianza sul territorio.
Then we also need to consider the economic consequences of such an earthquake in our region, in the area of Macerata, of Ascoli, especially in the mountain area where we have a lot of little towns, little villages, and there are also areas that are rich of culture. We have a lot of churches, we have a lot of cultural patrimony that we want to preserve. In this case, we didn't see the situation under a complete point of view because we had to save and we had to protect the small businesses, also the small farms, for example, and the food activities that were related to the territory. We had to help these bodies and we had to help these companies. However, they had to close and wait for a possible reopening in the future, and this is something that was done wrong. The first person that was responsible for the recovery was the governor of the region Emilia-Romagna, Errani, and he had dealt with emergency in Emilia-Romagna. However, here the reality is different because in Emilia-Romagna, in this region, we have a lot of big companies, big industries. Here it's different. We have a lot of small realities. And if we think of the period where when the earthquakes has stricken, so October, November, it was a period of time where we were heading towards winter. So we had also problems related to the weather and the fact that this was getting cold. We would have had to study the earthquakes that we had in precedence to see what we could learn from that. However, it wasn't enough because we hadn't understood the needs of the territories and of the different companies. So if you can also think about the impact that such an earthquake had, because also in small towns and in the landscapes of this region, we had changes. It was a really huge earthquake that also changed the shape of the rivers. It could have been an opportunity for us to learn something and to give new life to our territory. However, it wasn't the case. And I would like to tell you about another example of what happened.
Per capire fino in fondo come veramente, secondo la mia opinione, avendo vissuto, come vi ripeto, più di un sisma, si può creare un'opportunità di crescita, di sviluppo da un sisma. Vi racconto un'esperienza che una mia esperienza. Io all'epoca del sisma ero presidente di una fondazione bancaria che ha tra i suoi scopi istituzionali quello di erogare su un territorio, peraltro di valenza provinciale. E voi capite, venendo anche dal mondo della Croce Rossa, quindi con una particolare attenzione agli esseri umani in difficoltà, alle categorie deboli, fragili della popolazione, era un po' nei miei desiderata e quella che era in un certo senso il fil rouge della mia politica in fondazione, era quella di essere vicino alle categorie più deboli, gli anziani. Per cui voi capite che il terremoto in una notte aveva spazzato le case di riposo, le RSA, le residenze sanitarie assistite, di un intero comparto, di tutto l'Alto Maceratese. E quindi con il mio consiglio decidemmo in maniera molto veloce, essendo, voi capite meglio di me, una fondazione, un'associazione di tipo privatistico, quindi anche con una procedura estremamente alleggerita, di riversare su quei territori più di 12 milioni di euro di risorse economiche per la realizzazione di una struttura unica, baricentrica, che quindi potesse essere in un certo senso la zona di raccordo di tutto quello che erano le case di riposo andate distrutte nell'arco di 10 minuti, mettere una zona baricentrica nella zona montana. Cosa voleva dire questo? Realizzare una struttura nuova. Mi ricordo che all'epoca contattammo tutti diciamo le strutture in legno o in acciaio o in metallo per fare una cosa assolutamente antisismica che non dovesse più sopportare e fosse tutti gli eventi di una certa tipologia. Quindi una struttura da realizzare in una zona servita, quindi centrale, di più di 120 posti letto, raggiungendo l'equilibrio economico e in una forma forse che vi devo dire da Cassandra inascoltata, anche di creare. Qualcuno ci aveva detto che sarebbe intervenuta una pandemia dopo qualche anno e questo sarebbe stata una scelta necessitata, con corpi di questa struttura assolutamente indipendenti per evitare, tra virgolette, possibilità di contagio. Non avremmo mai pensato a un Covid, ma questo era in un'ottica nell'andare avanti, quello che io penso sempre che si debba fare. Zona scelta, comune scelto, ma non per simpatia, per una questione di strade, di riferimenti, di essere veramente baricentrico a tutto un territorio. Quindi la struttura avrebbe riportato gli anziani in quei territori. Portare gli anziani significa riportare le loro famiglie, perché in genere si tende a riavvicinarsi. Aumentare una potenzialità di lavoro enorme, voi lo capite, una struttura così grande avrebbe comportato un ritorno di una richiesta di lavoro importante da scegliere in quel territorio senza nulla voler discriminare, ma una forza lavoro che tornava a vivere lì e avrebbe fatto rivivere la struttura con tutta una serie tra virgolette di indotti, ambulatori medici eccetera. Mi ricordo perfettamente di aver contattato la politica e in questo non leggete nessuna valutazione di nessun tipo e di nessun colore. Di aver contattato la politica il giorno in cui a Rigopiano si stava svolgendo la tragedia che poi coinvolse la zona di Rigopiano, l'albergo di Rigopiano. La politica fu entusiasta, del resto non poteva essere altrimenti, di una donazione di 12 milioni di euro e di una struttura che da gennaio sarebbe stata inaugurata alla fine di settembre, quindi in un lasso di tempo assolutamente straordinario di realizzazione. Però la politica non ebbe coraggio. Quindi chiese a una fondazione di scegliere il luogo e di essere colei che sarebbe diventata il front office per tutti gli altri comuni che potevano desiderare di ospitare nel loro territorio questo, ma questo non poteva essere compito di una fondazione, per cui la cosa non si è realizzata, perché nessuno ha avuto il coraggio di mettersi insieme. Lo dico anche contro quello che la Croce Rossa ha fatto in quelle zone. Dopo il terremoto sono stati realizzati centri per i giovani, scuole di musica. Lo dico senza nulla voler togliere, ci auguriamo che a volte per voler accontentare tutti si corre il rischio di non fare quello che in una visione di medio-lungo termine potrebbe essere fondamentale per un territorio. Ecco perché io dico che un terremoto dovrebbe essere l'inizio nella grande stravolgimento umano, psicologico, culturale di una rivoluzione culturale, capire che si deve uscire, è un po' il nostro vezzo. So che ci sono persone che vengono da altri paesi, di altre culture, noi siamo molto italiani, la difesa dei campanili e degli orticelli è un po' quello che ci caratterizza erratamente. Una volta lo potevamo fare. Questa è un'epoca che ci ha dimostrato, purtroppo, con gli stravolgimenti climatici, ambientali, i disastri naturali, di tutti quelli che sono apparsi nelle vostre slide, vi giuro che ne abbiamo vissuti tantissimi, perché alluvioni non sono estranee a questo territorio, lo sappiamo perfettamente, ma dobbiamo arrivare ad una politica culturale che parta dalla gestione delle emergenze per capire che dobbiamo andare oltre, avere una visione di medio-lungo termine e pensare che non ci dobbiamo dividere, ma metterci insieme, perché i progetti condivisi territorialmente, politicamente, culturalmente, da un punto di vista socio-sanitario assistenziale, sono gli unici che ci potranno salvare per il futuro. Sì, questo è avvenuto nel 2016.
Perfetto. I had to check something. Sorry. As I was saying, I think that an earthquake can be an opportunity to have a new life and start something new. And during the earthquake of 2016, I was working for a bank association, Karima. Yes, and we were also responsible to give funds to the territory to various realities. And I also have experience in the Red Cross. So as you can see, I have a fil rouge in my life that I would like to help the weakest of the society, especially elderly people. And so in this case, during this earthquake, after this earthquake, we decided to give 10 million euros to create an infrastructure, a home for elderly people in this mountain area. And we also spoke with a lot of stakeholders to build this infrastructure and this home for elderly people with wood and with steel and with metal, so that could resist a possible earthquake in the future. And we also wanted to have 120 beds, so a lot of places. And we also built this infrastructure, this home, to have independent buildings, independent bodies, so that it could also resist a possible pandemic. We weren't thinking about COVID at that time, it was too early, but we were foreseeing the possibility of something spreading and of having to distinguish and separate the different beds. And also we wanted to choose the area, the town, the municipality, so that could be central at the heart of the territory. And also we wanted to have the place that was the best position with the best roads. And the aim, the objective of such an infrastructure was also to bring elderly people back to the territory, and also to bring the families back, because then the families would have wanted to stay close to their elderly relatives. And also an infrastructure, a home that was so big could create also jobs. So we could have also more jobs in the area, and more people also would have wanted to move to the area. And we would have also had related services, for example, all the medical staff that was needed to run such a home. And I also remember that I spoke with politicians at the time. They were happy to have such funds, so millions of euro that could be used to have such a home. And we also wanted to have the home built very quickly, because it was January, and we wanted to open the home in September. So it was also something that we could do very quickly. However, the politicians weren't brave in politics. wasn't brave enough, because we had to choose everything, and it was something that it wasn't possible, because sometimes when we try to make everyone happy, we risk not being able to actually do what we wanted to do. So this is also why I say that an earthquake can be the beginning of a cultural revolution. And I think that I know that there are also people present here that come from other countries. And I wanted to add on something that is typical of Italy. That's to say that we want to protect our own backyards. We want to protect our small territory. This is something that we could do previously. However, now it's not possible anymore, because natural disasters, the number of natural disasters is increasing. We are having a lot more natural disasters than before. Think about all the floods that we have had recently. So we need to change our way of thinking, to have a cultural evolution, and to think of working together and to start together again to recover from a natural disaster.
Poi vi lascio, anche se credetemi tanti anni, mi farebbe anche piacere rispondere alle vostre domande, ma con una valutazione che facciamo spesso anche in Croce Rossa, tra noi volontari, con le persone interessate, che ancora sono considerate che gli psicologi al servizio gratuito della popolazione stanno, dopo tanti anni, ancora periodicamente lavorando nelle zone del terremoto, a piccoli gruppi, anziani da sostenere, famiglie da sostenere. Però vi voglio mettere l'evidenza su come situazioni così drammatiche, disastri naturali, abbiano un valore di crescita personale e di comunità importantissimo. Al contrario di un Covid, il Covid ci ha distanziato, il Covid ci ha allontanato, il Covid ha tagliato e reciso i rapporti e le relazioni interpersonali, perché eravamo costretti a rimanere chiusi, lontani dagli altri. Il terremoto, i sismi, questi grandi eventi hanno un elemento positivo, sembra un contrasto, ma lasciatemelo usare, un elemento positivo straordinario. Si impara a condividere insieme il pianto, le emozioni, il sorriso, il dolore, le situazioni, credetemi, incredibili, senza guardare l'appartenenza, il colore della pelle, senza guardare la fede che si professa, senza se e senza ma, si vive, si mangia, ci si sostiene insieme, si condivide quello che è la intima essenza dell'essere umano e la voglia di sopravvivere affidandosi a una ragionevole speranza.
So I reached the conclusion of my speech. I would have liked to being able to answer to your questions, but I'm leaving you with food for thought. Working at the Red Cross, I see a lot of my colleagues that are seen as the psychologues of the community, because they still work a lot of years after a natural disaster together with the community in small groups to help families, single families, to help the community overcome the difficulties, also psychological difficulties. But I would like to conclude my speech saying that an earthquake can be really a good opportunity to have personal growth and also a growth of the community. This is something that didn't happen with COVID, because COVID made us far away from each other. They separated, the COVID separated communities and also cut relationship. However, an earthquake, a natural disaster, can also be an positive element. I know that it doesn't seem so, but it's really like that, because after a natural disaster, the community learns to share. Everyone shares laughter. They share also the tears. So everyone works together to restart and to recover, regardless of the color of the skin, of the religion that you have, of possible differences that we could have between ourselves. So the community learns to share and also learns to have this human essence that we can have. So we want to survive together, and we want also to strive together to have more hope in the future.
Thank you to Rosaria del Balzo Ruiti and also to our linguistic support. And we really were thinking also with colleagues about the fact that really the gaps and the pain points that you enhanced are really coherent with the results that we got from over Europe from our analysis, and also this last element that you enhanced, the sense of empathy and connectedness of a territory, is something that was very touching even when we did the interviews in Umbria, for example, and that I feel that emerged even in other cases. So thank you for your precious contribution and point of view. Okay. Now
mi scuso, ma io ho un'altra emergenza in corso. Arriva fra poco una nave di migranti al porto d'Ancona e siamo lì, quindi non è un disastro naturale, ma è un disastro umano.
Refugees are coming in the Ancona port, so she need to go to Ancona to attend and to support this this moment. So thank you very much. Now I would like to leave the floor to Lucca Crea director Emanuele Vietina, which is connected. Maybe Emanuele, if you agree, it can be your turn, since we also knew that you had.
Hi, thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure to be with you all and in such interesting conference about recovery from disaster and in general how to deal with emergency when you are developing a touristic strategy for your territory, or as in our case handling a live action event. I want to tell that I have a presentation, but just to share a knowledge base. What is Lucca Comics and Games? Okay, because probably, and I would like to deal with the audience, if it's possible, or with the chairwoman that is leading the conference. Consider that basically we are now working on recovering. Okay, so so my idea for this meeting today is that to share a knowledge base about what Lucca Comics and Games is, and what is our vision, our strategy, and which is the role of Lucca Comics and Games in the Lucca touristic strategy. Then, as far as I think, as I've been invited to speak about last year, okay, I can tell you, but it's pretty easy, how we dealt with the emergency in Tuscany while we were handling a big event, as I'm going to describe to you. And then third phase of my small speech is what we are doing now, because Marta's presentation was very, very inspiring. Was like drinking from a fire hose, because Marta was basically describing what we are doing now. So what we have to tell to the people, and how do we have to reorganize ourselves in order to tackle the next upcoming festival at the end of October, because in the last years the rating, the standards, the records are telling us that there could be atmospheric cold weather emergency in the center of Italy. So if you agree with this approach, it's not that easy to deal with you from far from your conference room. I'm going to share as a relatively small presentation about Lucca Comics and Games. So if you agree, and I suppose yes, I'm going to share.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, please interact a little bit, because I feel alone here in Lucca. Okay, this is the the presentation. Okay, the presentation is about new mythologies meet and increase the dimension of our cultural heritage. Basically, Lucca Comics and Games is one of the largest events all over the world, bringing in Lucca 500,000 people. Variety described Lucca Comics and Games as the Western world biggest geek meet. So a meeting of people passionate for pop culture, passionate for storytelling, for gaming, for comics, everything you can interact with, creating new stories. Last year, claim was together because we are kept together by the passion for stories. So Lucca Comics and Games is an event, it's a consumer show, it's a festival, it's a community event that every year sold about 300,000 tickets with an overall attendance of about 700,000 people, okay? That means that basically the town for a week is packed of people. Of course, it's a great community event. We have to manage, of course, such a big crowd, such a big attendance of people, and in some way it's a sort of emergency. It's a beautiful emergency for the town because we have to host, handle, and guide such a big amount of people. So basically, all the big institutions, all the authorities of Lucca, and I mean the Prefettura, the Polizia di Stato, Carabinieri, Fire Brigade, so the Comando di Vigili del Fuoco creates together with us Lucca Crea. Lucca Crea is a limited liability company owned by the Municipality of Lucca. We create a CGE, a Centro Gestione Eventi, so the center of the crisis management of Lucca Comics and Games to properly hold such a big amount of people, involving, of course, also the Protezione Civile. Consider that at least 30% of the people comes from the railroads and the other people comes from the highways. So all the people, all the authorities are involved in managing the event, the convention. So basically the idea of the convention is to bring in Lucca and in Italy the best of the best of the best of the creative industries from all over the world, and we mean Nintendo from Japan, as well as Netflix from US, Disney Plus, Warner, and Ubisoft from France. So the big video games and TV show and movie company. But we want to provide an opportunity to discover the city. So basically the festival, it's a huge opportunity for the town, not only to get an economical impact on the town, but also it's an incredible way to promote the town. But what is going to happen when around you in Tuscany, there is a weather emergency? And so you have to handle 500,000 people while the railroad are in some way interrupted, the highway are not that easy to be used. So you have to manage all of these situations. So basically what we wanted to say is that such a big festival as Lucca Comics and Games improve the reputation and the brand awareness of the town. And moreover, this is a research from the IMT, the Scuola di Alti Studi from Lucca. It's a festival that also can change the perception of the town. Of course, what is going to happen when the emergency can affect the vision of the town? If you can see the cloud working and the sentiment analysis of Lucca, it's more involved to the town than to the convention. Comics is smaller than Bella and Bellissima. That means that the festival promotes the vision of the town, because basically our idea is to merge pop culture with our monumental heritage. So the web listening last year, so basically we can raise not on the proprietary, not on the owned media, but on the not owned media. We create an engagement of 79 million of interaction from more than 300,000 conversations. And the sentiment was basically positive, even if last year we'll lose 10% of the positive sentiment because of the weather emergency. The global media evaluation, so the advertising value equivalent, bring to the town more than 25 million euros of visibility in terms of media. And this means that Lucca Comics and Games can raise all this visibility on Lucca Comics and Games involving the most important international brand, as I already told you, Amazon, from Twitch, Hasbro, Universal, and so far. And of course, the most important Italian publisher and brand. As you can see from this map, all these brands are located in many different points of the town. So in case of emergency, the authorities in this crisis management center has to monitor and to control not only, of course, the pavilion, and of course we have some security standard involving wind management, involving water management, but also we have to be ready with many squad to manage the crowd in connection with the state of health of the trees of the city walls, the building, and so far. Because as far, for example, last year we had a big trouble with the with the wind management, and the wind management affected part of the trees above all our city walls, where you can find a lot of attraction. So basically, from the central crisis management, we had many squads located close to the point of interest, for example, the RAI or the Sergio Bonelli pavilion, so to be able to protect, manage, and divert the crowd from the possible crisis point to most safe point, and also to guarantee the experience, because we cannot interrupt the experience for people that has already bought the ticket. So we had to manage the satisfaction of our customer as well as the safety of our customer. And so basically we call it's a system that in Italian we call geometrie variabili. So we variate so hour per hour, the path that the audience has to follow to go from an attraction to another attraction in connection, and of course in liaison with the possible dangerous situation. Of course, it was something that was never happened in the last 25 years, but luckily for us, we planned this in advance. So in situation in normal situation like 22 or 20 or 19, we already had planned this center crisis management that we have never used, but we used it last year. The fantasy in Tuscany, so Lucca, it's sort of brand touch point, and so what we need to do is to connect our monumental heritage. Like you can see, this is the St. Michael Church in connection with the universal brand Hunger Games. It's the same for Netflix, that, for example, came to Lucca, connecting is upside down together with the idea of the labyrinth that is carved on the facade of our cathedral, or doing big show out of our city wall, the monument, the identity, that it's basically the identity of our town. Of course, what we have to do in case of live action performance is being able to quickly reschedule the exhibition performance accordingly with the crisis state of the emergency. And last year, probably someone of you remember, during the days from the 1st of November to the 5th of November, the days of the festival, in Tuscany, we had an emergency weather situation. We have also to say that Lucca, in some way, has been skipped by the bad weather that probably hit stronger in Prato, Pisa, Livorno, and less around the town of Lucca. But nevertheless, the center of the crisis management had to handle transportation and also replanning and rescheduling of most of these events. Yes, by this, because Lucca Comics and Games is not anymore a top-down festival like many beautiful cultural festivals in Italy, but it's more a community event where the people no longer wants to attend the festival, people want to be the festival. So one of our duties in the Center of Crisis Management is to, accordingly, of course, with the situation, is to be able to preserve the stage of our audience. So of course, we also use some of our building and some historical setting. And so globally, Lucca Comics and Games is a festival with 1,500 scheduled events, live drawing session, 20 exhibition in the historical palace, and 300 guests and 20 worldwide premiere for an overall production of 11 millions. And within these 11 millions, 1.4 million are directed in cultural events. And this festival is totally independent economically wise because we are able to raise this value of production from our ticketing and from our booth selling. That it means, by the way, that in case of crisis management, we have to protect this investment of 11 million euros globally for the whole production and 1.5 in cultural activities with insurance. Last year, we didn't need to activate the insurance, but it's just a note. The only insurance company that are able to provide for serious and solid event cancellation insurance are the British one. And so we every year we ask for estimation to British company to be covered by, if possible, even cancellation for crisis, weather crisis issue situation. Then, of course, this is a small part. So for us, it's very important to manage the connection of the global situation with our town, because all the storytelling of the show is connected with our monuments, as you can see, from Capitan Harlock to Zero Calcare to the Ferrari. All the brands that comes to Lucca want to connect their brands with the positive value of the brand of our town. That in case of emergencies and in case of disaster, of course, our crucial asset, that it's the town, it's under the attack. So we have to be able to provide for a good experience. And it's only on 5 days. So probably our perspective is a bit different from the conference. So we are not speaking about recovery after a disaster, but we are more focused on how to deal with an emergency that possibly can bring a disaster. So prevent and in some way manage the situation. Because as you can see, from Ferrari to Bonelli to Radio DJ, everything is about our monumental heritage. Everything is about the venue. So a possible crisis, disaster, or also forecasting of a disaster or possible danger can affect also the emotion of the people coming to Lucca Comics and Games. So we have to do something to prevent and reassure our audience, because since our promotion post to the end of the show, everything talks not everything is focused not on comics, video games, movie, but the town that is hosting all of this. So getting back to this beautiful conference right now, and I was very impressed by Marta's presentation, we are in a situation where our question mark as how to communicate with our community, because last year has been very demanding, very challenging. So probably some people have some difficulties in getting to Lucca using the railroads because the railroads were closed. So the experience wasn't that good. So right now we have, so from the release of the new edition of Lucca Comics and Games that is going to be at the end of June, our first goal is properly communicate. I can't say really our recovery situation, but community, we have been able to handle the crisis. And so stay safe. You can come back to Lucca, even if the situation won't be so promising, of course, in a relative scale. If the danger is and the disaster is already happened, nobody has to come to a temporary event. And we have to do this with an ethical approach. So, for example, our management team is now focused on restriction on, for example, selling less ticket, again in a relative scale, because the economical sustainability of the show is very, very important as far as we are a company owned by the municipality. But nevertheless, we have to ask ourselves, probably a relative downshifting could put us in a better situation in case of a crisis management. So basically, right now, we are also working on a training program for our people on the ground, for the steward and the hostess and the controller on the ground, because last year we had to face, and we were prepared, but of course you have also to improve your system. So we had to tackle a very complicated situation. So basically right now our question mark, and I hope that this conference can bring us nice suggestions and advices, we are focused on a proper communication after the crisis, if I may not say recovery. So after crisis communication, ethical approach to the redesign of the event, and last but not least, a full training program for the 900 hostess and steward that we have on the ground, that are the first people on the ground that has to be able to properly handle, to let the people feel safe in our temporary event. So this is our line of activities right now, that are the things we are focusing on to preserve, to conserve, and to make Lucca the biggest show that it is, but also safe, well designed, to let the artists and the community here come to Lucca and enjoy their stay. So this is all from me, and I hope to have raised some questions, and we are now working. And if someone of you want to listen the some short speech of our guest, and to see some image about publics and games, if someone of you have never seen Lucca, I think that Marta can share a small videos about the biggest artists coming to Lucca, because crisis management and post-crisis communication and training means to preserve the value that we can share you by this video. That's
Thank you. It was fantastic. Everybody's clapping here. Huh? I think we were already big fans of Lucca Comics so far, but now seeing also how tied to the local community, the community of fans and gamers that participate to the festivals, and also all the measures that you have put into practice also, in case of emergencies and so on. I think you really represent the best practice that we were that we are even more in love with. So thank you very, very much for sharing this. So now I show the video that Emanuele asked me to show, and then if you have any questions before he leaves us, you can ask. Okay, let's go with the video for a second. Okay.
Your city is magical. And the festival is an absolute joy. The experience it brought me nothing but joy.
Having an exhibition like this in the middle of it is just incredible.
I'm just so thankful and impressed with this festival. It's so much more than a corporate festival. It's so much heart is invested in this. And I think that's wonderful.
とっても美しい街でした。ルッカに着いた時に、ここは天国なんじゃないかなと思います。
Thanks to Lucca Comics and Games, best event in the world, most beautiful city in the world.
I walk down the street and the street is the convention. I walk into a tent and the tent is a convention. Into a palace, the palace is a convention. I have never said this. You have hundreds of thousands of people here and they're all having a great time.
Wow, congrats. And okay. Really, thank you for thank you. This was really an emotion. And I would like to say also that in one of the intervention at the end, there was the woman mentioning there is really so much heart, and there couldn't be any better way to introduce also our next speaker from RisorgiMarche, which in fact in their logo also has hearts used all the time. So from the Red Cross, really, she Rosaria del Balzo Ruiti spoke about, you know, the connection of communities, and then it's full of hearts. Our, you know, guest speakers. This is very sweet. So thank you, Emanuele. Is there anyone that wants to? Okay. To say something to Emanuele, otherwise we tell him goodbye. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're super honored to be to have had you here with us. So see you next time, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. And again, thanks for inviting me. And the presentation was terrific, especially because I watched something that we are literally working on now. So it's we are a living case history. So please get in touch with us, stay in touch, and
yes,
and we will. And if you can share with us your presentation, it could be very inspiring to us. So thanks for inviting me, and hope to be able to come to Macerata soon. Okay.
Oh, we would love to. We will be surely in touch. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and see you next time. Bye bye. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Okay. So now we can proceed with the super patient Giambattista Tofoni. Thank you for letting us adjust the agenda. Okay. Do you want to manage yourself, your slides?
Yes.
I can give you
the folder there.
Yes, you have.
Okay.
So
Thank you very much.
no problem.
So I didn't present any catchy presentation. I don't want to sell you nothing. And I'm not really good on presentation, but it's
But
okay.
you do the project.
No,
event,
no,
okay?
come on.
Okay.
Okay. I might need also. Oh,
RisorgiMarche, eccolo qua.
Sì. Mi metto gli occhiali perché non.
Allora vado un attimo sulla presentazione su Teams, che ti condivido lo schermo così anche lo vedi, e poi ti lascio. Ok, anche tu i video, vero?
Sì.
Ok, allora condividi.
No, forse devi stare qui con me.
Con audio.
Uh-huh.
Eccoci. E vai in full screen se vuoi.
Perché i video ce l'ho esternamente perché un trasferimento li vedo. Perfetto. So very simple. Maybe this is a case study. It's not a presentation. Again, I'm not really good on as a graphic designer, so I put together some picture, and then I will speak to you about this festival that we organize. We started in 2017. The festival has been conceived by a famous Italian actor that you might know, the Italians for sure, that is called Marco Re. He's an actor, comedian, and musician. And he's also a movie director. He just debuted as he made his debut as movie director recently with a movie called Zamora. So we were both born in this region, and then we were both busy in the cultural industry. Let's say I'm a producer. I'm a festival and music producer, and I'm right now running as a general manager, as a full employee, a European cultural network called Europe Jazz Network that is based in France and is granted by the Creative Europe. So we are one of the 28 cultural networks granted by the Creative Europe. So I'm producer, I live here, and then he's a famous one. So after the earthquake, we know each other since 20 years, and we started to think about doing something for our territory, because it was, you know, the earthquake was really strange, let's say, very heavy in our territory, but let's say how can I translate it in English? The imaginary, no, wait, I should have a right word. Immaginario collettivo, the collective imagination could be, yes. General, yes, collective, l'immaginario collettivo, yes, something like this. I mean, the idea that in the country we had about, the earthquake was concentrated only with two icon picture. That was the Norcia church that was completely destroyed, and Amatrice that we had, where they had a lot of debt. And then nobody was speaking about our region. And despite the fact that our region had 67% of the territory hit by the earthquake. So as the Red Cross responsible said before, I mean, 55 city council and municipalities of this province were hit by the earthquake. So speaking about this, I mean, this is the heart of the seismic area of that earthquake. As you can see, I mean, you know where the Marche region is. These are the numbers of municipalities hit by the earthquake at that time, and this is the, you know, picture of Norcia, the famous church, and this was the Amatrice church. So the reason why we started to do this is that we call each other during the second hit in October, and then he came directly to Spelonga, Arquata del Tronto, where he met a lot of people, and Spelonga had the first, you know, died person of this earthquake years ago. And then people came to him and say that don't leave us alone, and then you have to do something for us. So the main reason was this: what we can do as a social society, as a civil society, to help our territory. So we started to do, you know, this festival, and yes, and then we organized the concert in this area. I would like to show now a very short video of the festival, so you can see the approach of the audience, where we organized this festival, and the reason why we did it. So you have to go here, unfortunately, to the other folder that is here. Okay. And this should work. You see it? Yes. So the people, the artists, the people that are speaking in the background are the artists that came to the festival.
La musica, mi rendo conto che non può ricostruire fisicamente delle città distrutte, delle vite molto complicate, però è vero che può veramente essere uno stimolo, un'amplificazione di entusiasmo, di emotività enorme.
This was Nicola Fabi.
Voi, al di là di tutto quello che fanno gli altri, dovete trovare la forza dentro, grande in voi stessi. Siete fortissimi, avete un sorriso luminoso, avete un'energia grande.
L'empatia ha nella musica forse il suo strumento migliore.
belli che siete, voi non potete neanche immaginare che panorama c'è da qua, ragazzi. E c'è una cosa che non voglio perdere, è la fiducia, perché voi oggi mi avete dimostrato che si cade e ci si rialza, si cade e ci si rialza. E questa è la caratteristica degli esseri umani.
E questa davvero la vogliamo dedicare a tutti voi, a tutto il popolo di questa terra meravigliosa che insegna a tutte le altre terre come si fa a riemergere, come si fa a non perdere mai il coraggio, a trovare sempre nuova forza. Davvero siete un modello.
Siamo due coste di rupe. Aspettiamo un terremoto per unirci di nuovo in un solo canto.
To translate what was saying in the video very quickly, music cannot physically reconstruct and rebuild what fell down because of the earthquake, but it can be an engine, a way that we want to start again, because it can be a way to gain energy. Empathy is also a tool that music uses, and it's the best tool that the music can use. And then there were the artists saying that it was really beautiful to be there and to see the public, a public that is still having hope in the future and trust in the future, because if you fall down, you can stand up again. And then there were songs dedicated to the people that can teach to other people the force, the energy that they had to rebuild. They can be a model, and they can learn, they can teach, how not to lose faith and hope. And this earthquake was a way to stay together and to be together to overcome the difficulties.
So these were the words of the people invited to the festival. There are very, very famous Italian singers. I mean, we hosted more than 105 concerts. You can see, maybe you could be interested in this data, put in the random way, to be honest. So we can comment it. We organized 105 concerts. There was 568 local producers invited to sell their goods, because the idea was not only to start to switch on a spotlight on the territory that was heated, but also to invite the people that was the very small producer mentioned before by the previous people that came here. And then they create their own economy, because you have to understand that at the beginning of January 2017, the press release of the region said that the 90% of they received the 90% of the cancellation of all the hotel bookings. So at the beginning of, January 2017. So there was an economic disaster was happening. So our idea, mine and Neri, was to create something that could be a counter earthquake to the economy. And then we invited also the few local producer remains already in the business to sell their products. I mean, we are speaking about, very small entities. And then I will show you later some picture about this. And then we invited 747 musicians, more or less with the big events, because the biggest events you saw was the Giovannetti events with 70,000 people attending. By the way, this concert was announced just 5 days before it happens. And then we didn't print any posters. We didn't print any folder for the whole festival in 7 years. So we had an approach of sustainability. We only work with social media, and we only work with digital, advertising. So in terms of sustainability, as you saw in the picture, in the video before, for example, there was no stage, no liars, no big PA, no artificial lights. All the concerts were organized during the afternoon. So the people start their journey, because it was an experience. They start the journey to come to the concert at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning with a backpack. Normally we invite them to buy their goods in the place of the concert to help the local economy. So they came with an empty backpack, and then they found the water, the foods and everything there. And then we created this microeconomy that really helped the situation just after the earthquake. And yes, so at the end of the first 3 years of the festival, before the COVID, we had 300,000 people attending the concerts. The concert for free there was no ticket, for free for everybody, and we didn't count the people that came, but we created the opportunity for them to park their cars, and then we invite everybody to share. Car sharing a lot. We invite the local communities, the local companies to organize the bus by themselves. We give free access to the bus to the closest area of the festival. Yes, and also regarding the merchandising, we involved the 2 most important disabled organizations in this region, and then we gave them the possibility to earn all the money coming from the merchandising, and they earned something like more than 120,000 euros. It was the ANFAS. They create the Casa del Cuore, the House of the Heart for the people with disabled people. And then the Frollabus is a cooperative of people disabled that produce biscuit and cakes and cookies. They produce a specific biscuit for RisorgiMarche, and they sold it, and they earn something like 24,000 euros for this. So we start to create this, this kind of connection with the communities. We involved 51 city councils, and then the people ran for 3,600,600, yeah, okay, you can see it, kilometers of trekking. And then yes, and during the COVID, because we had to, the control of the people coming for the COVID, because you have, a limit of the people can, attend the concert. We had to put a ticket of 2 or 5 euros, and this ticket has been, refunded to the city councils. And then speaking about what we create in the macroeconomy was around 8 million euros. The possibilities we had. I mean, for example, this is not a proper analysis. I mean, we simply multiply the people that came. We multiply the fact that in the major events, the whole hotel of the region was fully booked, sold out, from Pesaro to Ascoli Piceno. So despite, the fact that at January 2017, the region announced that the 90% of cancellation, at the end of the year 2017, they closed the season with a minus 10%. That was, really good. We contributed to this, yes or not, we don't know, but we did our part to do this. And then, yes, I think that really helped the economy of the territory. Yes, I would like to. Yes, this is the the people that did this experience. I mean, as you can see, they have to, walk or do the trekking and hiking, sometimes a very long one for 12 kilometers, 13 kilometers. The average was 6 or 7, but, again, they have to start 8 o'clock in the morning, park their car, start their trekking, buy their foods close to the place, and then go back after the concert. So it was a fantastic experience for everybody. Just other, picture here. Yes. And they came, mainly, doing their trekking, but they use also, a lot of means of transport, from a lot of bicycles, of course, families against horses, bikes against donkeys, etc. So this is, we didn't print anything, as I told you before, no folder, no poster, no billboard, nothing, but we print only one copy of the press release. And this is one copy of the 7 books of the press release. So we had a fantastic, press office, and we have a lot of reviews coming from all the European and national papers. Yes, this is the market. I mean, we involve all the local communities there, and then these 300,000 people really bought everything during the concert. So yes, from the water to the beer to the sausages or whatever. And this is, you can see a picture of how many people were attending there. It was a little bit far from the center of the let's say stage. There was no stage, of course. And just not to disturb the concert, because we also use, a very low sound pressure level in order not to interfere with the nature, because we were, organized this concert in a protected area. And then, yes, I would like to show you, yes, these are the producer. Okay, this is a famous Varnelli, maybe you know, it's a famous producer of this area. Yes, and yes, the Jova case. The Jova case is something that, because Giovannetti is one of the most famous Italian pop artists. So he wanted to attend the festival. We announced the festival, let's say in June, and then on the 31st of July, he finished his, tour, and then he called RisorgiMarche, the director of the festival, and said, "I would like to participate." So during the festival, and then with the only day he has available was the 5th of August. So we announced the festival just the concert, sorry, just five days before it was happening, without printing anything. And then the result was this picture that is really impressive, made with a drone, yes. And then after this picture was published everywhere in Italy, and we received a lot of complaints. An army of green Taliban started to attack us, and then I would like to show you two part of this. How can a concert like this could be sustainable? As you can see from the picture, there are no structures. You see, there are no tower layers. There is not a big PA, so the sound pressure level was under 100 decibel in all over the place. So the black spot that you can see are small loudspeakers. You see, under the tree, yes. And yes, and I would like to show you a time lapse after this concert to see if you send, a clear message to the audience will receive this message, and then they will not leave anything on the ground. Okay. So first, I would like to, to show you some page of the newspaper of that after the concert. I mean, this is Affari d'Oro, means gold mine or gold business, or how you can translate in English. Affari d'Oro. Very good businesses for the people that were selling their Okay, this is the picture of Giovannetti himself, showing that all the hotels in the region were sold out. Yes, indotto milionario, I don't know, indotto, okay. Yes, I mean, this is the idea that this kind of events or festival really helped the local economy a lot. There was a lot of very happy, let's say, businessmen or small, small business organization that really receive a lot of. Okay, I would like to show you this time lapse now. 1 second, because it's really important. Doesn't launch. I'm sorry. Don't know why. Uh-oh. Ok. No. Mm. Qui. Ah, quell'altro forse sì.
C'è qualcosa in blocco qui, scusate. Ok. Ok. Quindi vado un attimo, torno qua, che magari si impalla delle volte. Okay. Vai, condividi. Ok, stavamo sulla cartella.
Ah, okay, sì. So there is no sound here, but you can see that the people are arriving in the morning. Now the concert will start, so they remove, they remove all the umbrella over there. Now the concert is, yes. Now the concert is going to finish. Look. Yes, sorry, but the last picture was really, yes. Anyway, it's okay, you saw it. So the next one is the Giovannetti, the big one. So this is the sound check. Now, yes, sound check is over. We cover, then we move the tent in a few seconds. In the meantime, all the people arrived. Yes, now the concert started. Okay. Now he's leaving because the van is there. People is leaving. Yes, and okay. Unfortunately, we have to stop the last frame, but it was not possible. Okay. Yes, and then he added. I mean, after this concert, I mean, if you send this kind of clear message to the audience, you can see that you don't. After the concert, you don't dive in a plastic, glasses sea like normally you see in the big events of the pop scene, for example. And then after this concert, just 5 minutes after Giovannetti left, he had the idea to organize the Jova Beach Party, and he announced it during the Fabio Fazio important TV shows. Yes. And yes, I would like to also show this part of the video because Jova Beach Party was one of the most impressive European tour for an artist like for a pop artist, because he has been awarded one of the most important European tour in terms of economy created. So I would like to show. Yes, I think that.
Can I just translate what was saying in Italian? This is Italian national television. This is as we were saying, the Italian Jimmy Fallon. And the interviewer, Fabio Fazio, was saying that Giovannetti has done these concerts during the summer, and there were really a lot of people. And then Giovannetti, the artist, said, yes, we thought we would have had a lot of people, while we didn't expect the 70,000 people that we had, because we had announced the event only a few days before. And 2 hours after the event finished, Neri Marcore sent me a picture of the field with the message, look at the field. There is no waste around, not even a piece of paper. And it seemed like we were in Switzerland. This is a stereotype in Italy. We say that in Switzerland, everything is perfect. And then Giovannetti said, there is a new generation that deals with ecology and environment in a way that can also be happy and related to party and not only a serious way. And this is where he had the idea of the Jova Beach party. And then we watched the videos and the different photos.
Yes, so after the concert, we had this, let's say, small group of haters that will the green haters, very few of them, but very, very active on the web, that attacked us because we created pollution. The carbon footprint of the festival was really high. It was really a fake news. And then we recently discovered a video on Facebook about a user that came the very day after, in the place of the concert. I would like to show you because it's really a testimony of or what is happening in the real world.
Oh, eccola, questa è la zona del concerto. In pratica sono probabilmente dove era montato il palco, non si riconosce più niente perché non c'è niente. Ho girato a destra e a sinistra qui nella conca di Roti per trovare qualche rifiuto in giro, non l'ho trovato, sicuramente qualche coglione su 70.000 persone ci sarà stato e probabilmente delle 70.000 persone la maggior parte che sono salite sin qui a piedi hanno provveduto a riportarsi a casa anche i rifiuti degli altri. Quello che non è che è rimasto sul posto ci avrà pensato la staff. Io non ascolto Giovannotti, Marco Re non sapevamo manco chi era, poi ci hanno detto che era un personaggio televisivo e noi la televisione non ce l'abbiamo da 4-5 anni, per cui state tranquilli. Roti vive nella sua serenità totale. È pulita anche tutta la strada, ho controllato lungo le scarpate, non c'è niente. I frati non ci sono, i rapaci stanno lassù tranquilli, bestie al pascolo non ce ne so. Non mangiate la carne umbro-marchigiana, mangiate le solite vacche francesi piene di ormoni e steroidi, perché se mangiate la carne quella vera di vitellone vi si pacca la mandibola. E rimanete sereni. Questo è un appello rivolto a tutti gli ambientalisti, i biologi e tutte le persone che sono in pensiero per questo luogo.
Adesso la voglio vedere.
Questo luogo è tranquillo.
Tradurre.
Forse ecco, a Braccano oggi, che prima nessuno sapeva che cazzo di posto era e non ci andava nessuno, oggi ci sono 4-5 famigliole che si stanno a fare 2 panini e 2 birre e il resto è rimasto tutto come prima. State sereni.
Sì. No, this is the real world. Let's say this is the, yes, please. It's a very hard job now to translate.
It was a sarcastic comment. The person was saying, so this is probably where the concert took place yesterday. As you can see, you cannot recognize where everything was because you cannot find waste, you cannot find rubbish, nothing. Of course, out of 70,000 people, there were some idiots, of course, but I think that also a lot of people took care of their rubbish and also the rubbish of the other people. And maybe if there's something that was left here, the staff took care of it, I don't know. But anyway, as you can see, there is no waste lying around. I don't care about Giovannotti. I don't listen to his music. And Marco Re, we didn't know him. Later, I found out that he was someone famous on television, but we haven't had a television for 4 or 5 years. So we don't actually care about him. Also, the street was clean. So if you want to check, everything was clean. As you can see, the animals, the wild animals can also weren't disturbed by the event. And also pretty birds can be here, and here there are no cows. But if you want to eat good cows, maybe it's better to eat local meat, not the rubbish that comes from other countries where there are a lot of hormones and so on. But it's you can do as you choose. And as you can see, there are maybe 4 or 5 families that decided to come here today. Before, no one knew this place, and now we have a couple of people that want to come here. So you can be reassured that this place is still safe, but it was a bit more sarcastic than that.
Congratulations. It's a fantastic translation. Thank you very much. So the idea was this: it's an answer of the social society. This is an answer to the people and the fake news, because they accused us of carbon footprint pollution, and we know that the majority of the pollution, the carbon footprint of a concert is created by the audience, of course. In terms of production, we are, for example, powering all the PA, all the amplification system with battery and solar power since 3 years. And then we won 3 years ago also the prize, the award, for the best Italian Green Festival. Yes, and then the festival is becoming more a festival of sustainability, inclusivity. We are not really attached again to the earthquake. We are attached to the earthquake community, of course, to the city council, etc. But there have been a flooding, last years in the north part of the region, and now we are changing a little bit the festival philosophy a little bit. But we don't know if we will do the 8 editions yet, and then. But we will decide in a few weeks. Well, of course, it's a free concert for the audience, so we need resources coming from private or public sponsors, and sometimes they are really happy to help, and sometimes not. But it's yes, we will see in the next weeks if we will do the 8th edition of the RisorgiMarche Festival. Thank you very much. If you have some questions, I'm really happy to answer. Or yes.
Yeah, once again, we were big fans of RisorgiMarche too. It's very impressive to see how such a reality can be born as sustainable and ethics, and the hard work that you've been putting into this. And really, the fake news were a thing for your festival, unfortunately, but we're very proud that you were able to be coherent, and good luck for the continuation of this fantastic project. Thank you very much. Okay, now I have a little announcement. Unfortunately, the WEGA contribution is unable to be performed at the moment, so they had a couple of problems today to first connect with the director, and then the other guest did not announce the fact that he needed to leave in advance. So now we can have our coffee break before the academic session with our dear colleagues and friends. So we take 20 minutes coffee break, and then we will be back at 5 o'clock for the final session. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back, everyone. If there is our dear colleague Marina Gigliotti, we are now ready to start with the audience that is in presence and with the audience online for our scientific panel. So I would like to welcome Marina Gigliotti from University of Perugia. She is an associate professor, and now she will present to us a couple of researches she was performing with her team. So let me stop sharing the screen. I hope I have stopped. Okay.
Okay.
So Marina, if you're able to share, yes, fantastic.
I'm sharing my screen. Hello, hi. Thank you very much, Marta, and good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for inviting me in this very interesting project, and congratulations, because this is a very relevant topic for me that I'm now working and living in Umbria region, and this is a region affected by natural disasters such as earthquake in 2016, and then it's very interesting and useful to have a project like this. Then thank you again for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to present a couple of research. I'm so sorry not to be there for you with you, and but thank you for this opportunity. I would like to present a couple of studies relating to disaster management, and the first study is related to dark tourism, and is related to the behavior of consumers, and that is tourism and visitors in relation to dark tourism sites. And the second one is a very different topic, but also related to disaster management and disaster recovery, and this is related to the organizational attractiveness of an organization, a company, as employer. That is the ability to attract talents and then future employees when the company is located in a location affected by a disaster. And then let's start with the first study that is related to dark tourism and to the behavior of visitors and tourists. We started from a little theoretical point of view and an introduction. Please consider that the most consolidated theoretical approach in the management literature and tourism literature is related to the ability of a destination to come back to the pre-disaster situation, and then the ability for a tourism sites to come back to the situation before the disaster, and to restore the image of the destination. And then is similar to a strategy push to forget what happened, and that to restore the image of a safe site and safe destination for tourists. This is the most consolidated approach, but in very recent years, we have seen in the literature the rise of another theoretical approach that is related to the ability for a destination, a tourism destination, to attract those consumers, in that case visitors or tourists, that are interested in visit the destination because of the disaster. This is the example. You can see the example of Chernobyl. In the last decade, you can read a lot of newspaper related to Chernobyl as a destination and tourist destination because of the disaster. In this case, not natural disaster, human disaster, but is very similar in the independent of the nature of the disaster. And then we start from this point of view, and our objective in these studies was to understand the role that communication campaign can have in influencing tourist decision to visit these sites, and also their spending behavior. You can see here the definition of dark tourism, that is the act of travel to sites associated with death, suffering, and so on. It seems a little bit macabre, but it's not macabre because we have seen that literature have studied a lot in the last decade the motivation of visitors to visit this site. You can see here another very well-known dark tourism site, that is Auschwitz. And then we have seen that there are two typical motivation, and that motivation can group into group of motivation. Emotional and cognitive. Emotional motivation to visit this kind of site are related to, for example, preserve memory, or are related to feel emotion and remember what happened in that site. Is something that is related to also empathy. You cited empathy in your previous contributions, and the colleagues that spoken before me say a lot about empathy, love, and community, and so on. And then the emotional motivation are related to all these feelings. On the other side, literature have seen that a part of tourism want to visit this kind of sites because of cognitive motivation. That is, motivation that are related to understanding what happened in that site. For example, think about Nazism in Auschwitz, or what happened in sites that was affected by earthquake or flood, and so on. And then cognitive motivation are more related to gather information, learning, a personal development related to understand what happened, and then is more related to information, while emotional motivation are related to feelings. And then starting from this, we have seen that the gap in the literature was that no one, to the best of our knowledge, have analyzed how communication campaign based on cognitive or emotional elements have on the intention to visit or to travel to this kind of sites. And then we have adopted an experimental methodology. I go very going brief with these details. We have collected data on original online survey or 450 travelers in the US, and that please consider that the results are related to US travelers. And we have administered the four kind of stimuli. that is too emotional and too cognitive, because our objective was to compare these two kind of campaign. But at the same time, literature suggests that also the nature of disaster can affect the replies of tourists. And then we propose also two kind of stimuli related of flood and earthquake, and this is the four stimuli: cognitive flood, emotional flood, cognitive earthquake, and emotional earthquake. It's difficult, I know, for you to read what is written in these stimuli, but in the cognitive we write a lot related to the emotion that a person would be able to feel to visit a specific site. In the cognitive, we write a message. The tone of the message was more related to information, to understanding, and to the ability to understand what happened. The results, before the results, these are the variables we have collected. Please consider that together with behavioral variables, we have analyzed also the empathy, that is the sense of closeness toward the location and toward the sites, because we have seen from the literature that empathy toward a disaster can be a very relevant variable. And then our outcome was intention to visit, to travel, and the willingness to pay. These are some numbers, but I go okay to the findings. Surprisingly, we have not seen different replies when we had different messages, and then our hypothesis was not confirmed. That is, in case of cognitive message and in case of emotional message, we had very similar replies in terms of intention to visit or to travel. But we have seen other interesting findings. First of all, the most important variable to increase the intention to visit or to travel in a dark site and dark tourism site was empathy toward the disaster. And then is true, there is a part of tourists that have this necessity, this need to feel close to the community, to the destination, and to understand deeply what happened. This is for us empathy. And then we confirm the existence of a segment of tourists that are interested in visit and in travel to these sites. Another interesting finding is related to the nature of disaster. That is, in case of earthquakes, we have seen that visitors showed more intention to travel and intention to visit. And then for us, this is something that could be analyzed in future, but our force inside is related, for example, to the attention given by mass media to a disaster or another disaster. That is, for example, for us, earthquakes could have a particular evocative interest, and then a particular evocative feelings in the respondent. Please remember that we have analyzed US travelers, and then, for example, in the US, you know that they are waiting for the big earthquakes in Los Angeles, and then they had and have a big attention to earthquakes in comparison, for example, to flood. And these are our first findings relating to dark tourism. And if for you is okay, in a few minutes, I would like also to show the other findings we have gathered and we have found relating to the study, the second study, that is a very different study, but related to disaster recovery framework. But in this case, we have analyzed companies as employer. And then the ability of a company to attract talent, even if they are located in a location not so attractive like a location that was affected by a natural disaster. This is the literature review. We started from analyze the hospitality industry and the disaster management, but also the hospitality industry and the talent management. And the talent attraction was our third stream of research analyzed. In this case, we have seen that the attraction of talent can be measured through the organizational attractiveness or the job pursuit intention, that is in this case the intention to apply for a specific position. And that in general, and then not in a disaster framework, the talent attraction is affected by drivers such as social responsibility on the company, career opportunities, firm reputation, or support. That is, companies that are more social responsible or that offer career opportunities or that have a reputation, a good reputation, that offer support, have the possibility to attract talent. Starting from these, we have joined these result of previous research with our interest in understanding if the ability to attract talent is reduced if the employer is located in a site affected by a disaster. And then also in this case, we have adopted an experimental design, and in this case, we have administered different stimuli to the young generation. These are the stimuli. That is, we have 4 stimuli. We have mixed low location and low or high location and low and high profile company. That is, for low location, we have considered a location affected by a disaster. In our case, is Norcia. Norcia is a little city located in Umbria region that was strongly affected by the earthquake in 2016. On the other side, we have an high location that is an attractive location located in Umbria region to have no so high difference, and then is Perugia. Perugia was not affected by the earthquake. These are the 2 locations. Relating to the profile of company, low profile company is a company social oriented, that have that's no orientation to social activities or environmental activities, that has a low perspective related to career, and that has a low firm reputation. On the other case, high profile company that is an high profile company in case of CSR, career perspective, and firm reputation. These are the number, but go to the results. In brackets, you can see that the results, our findings, suggest that the high profile companies prevail on the ability to attract talents, also in the case of scarce attractiveness of the location. And then also in case of a location affected by a disaster, the companies located in that location can have the possibility to attract talents because of their reputation, their support to employees, and their career opportunities they give to the employees. And then for us, this is a very good news, because there is a way to compensate the low attractiveness of a location affected by disaster. These are the most important findings. I have finished my time, I know, and thank you for your attention. I'm here for your suggestion, for your question, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Marina, for the fantastic overview on the two researchers. We have hands clapping in the room. I don't know if you're able to hear those, but
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, your research is super, interesting, and also we had the chance to talk about the second research in Umbria in the last event that we did. So it was a pity not to share this too. And so thank you very much, and good luck with your research and everything. It would have been lovely to have you here, but academic duties we know prevented you from coming. But thank you nevertheless for being with us, and so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and congratulations for this very interesting project. Thank you, all of you.
Okay, we'll be in touch, and now we can proceed with our agenda. Now we have present here Mara Cerquetti and Eleonora Cutrini, two colleagues from University of Macerata, that are illustrating us their research on museum resilience. So I can help you with the slides, or are you doing yourself? No, aspetta, te lo condivido. Ok, siete in condivisione, quindi condividete.
Okay, it works. So good afternoon, good evening, maybe I should say, and thank you for inviting us in this event. Thanks to Professor Elena Cedrola and Marta Giovannetti for the organization. I also would like to bring greetings from Professor Simone Betti from the Department of Cultural Heritage Education and Tourism. Professor Simone Betti is the chair of bachelor and master degree programs in cultural heritage and tourism, and we are very interested in this event, the results of this event, but unfortunately today he couldn't be here with us. So the research Eleonora and I are presenting today is a research that we have already published on a scientific journal, the No Profit and Voluntary Sector Quarterly. And this research is about a model to measure and evaluate museum resilience. We suggested a possible model for measuring museum resilience, and then we applied this model on a group of museums of the seismic crater in this region. I'm talking about the crater that is the area of the Marche region affected by the earthquake between 2016 and 2017. We have already talked about this area today in previous presentations, and our research was a sort of follow-up, we can say, of a project we participated in, a project financed by the Regional Council of the Marche region, Nuovi Sentieri di Sviluppo dell'Appennino Marchigiano dopo il sisma, so new paths for developing the Apennines in the Marche region after the earthquake. And Eleonora and I met in this project, and we started working together in this project. And we worked on tourism and cultural heritage. And so, continuing our cooperation, we decided to analyze museums in these areas. I'm going to introduce our research, a few words about the theoretical background, about research on resilience, and then I will give the floor to Eleonora to present and discuss the results of our research. You can see here this picture. We do not have beautiful pictures as other. We have a lot of tables and numbers, but this picture is, I think that it is an interesting picture, is a picture that was taken during the operations carried out by the superintendency to recover cultural heritage in these areas. And I think that it is very interesting, very significant, because it shows the tight relationship that people have with their cultural heritage. Here you can see a woman. She's not a voluntary or someone working in the superintendence. It's just a woman living there who tries to help cleaning these works of art during this operation just after the earthquake. Okay, so I was talking about the theoretical background of our research. It is about resilience. So resilience, there has been an explosion of the resilience talk in the last few years, in the last 10, 20 years. Here you can see in this table how papers on resilience have increased between 1960 and 2015. I think that between 2015 and 2024, the number continued to increase. And what is interesting is that these papers increase not just in the environmental and engineering field, but also in social sciences. And at the moment, scholars are discussing if resilience is really a bridging concept, a boundary object, something that could help us in understanding how to react in situations from different disciplinary fields, or if it is just a buzzword. I know that some scholars do not like this word because it is overused. It is really used too much. But what about resilience? So I tried to summarize the main meanings of resilience that sometimes is true, is used not properly. I think that we can identify at least 3 main meanings of resilience. The first one is the engineering resilience, that is the capability to bounce back, so the capability, the speed of recovering. The second meaning is the ecological resilience, and it is connected to the capability to absorb a shock. And finally, the third meaning, what is much more interesting for us, is the adaptive resilience, the capability to bounce not back, but forward, so to transform, to change if the situation requires it. It means that we have to, of course, to restore the previous performances, but maybe with a different approach using a different method. And I think that there is an evolutionary approach also going from the engineering resilience to the evolutionary one, because there is a change in scientific studies. And nowadays there is high attention to adaptive resilience, so to the capability to adapt to crises, to shocks, to changes that could be continuous. From this point of view, resilience is becoming a sort of dynamic and continuous process, something that should be fostered, should be fed through specific strategies and actions. So if we consider resilience from this point of view, it means that we can also talk about a normative resilience. I mean, a way to improve the resilience capability of organizations, of territories, and so on. And of course, the historic dynamics impact on the capability to be resilient. What about the cultural sector? Well, when we analyze the cultural sector, the situation maybe is not so good, because there are many difficulties in this sector. On the one hand, it is a system characterized by unstable, precarious employment. On the other hand, we have a lot of small organizations working in this field. Of course, we have a gap. There are big organizations, big players such as Netflix, but also a lot of small organizations. And we can see that it is a fragile sector, a fragile system. The COVID-19 pandemic, for example, has stressed the fragility, all the difficulties that this sector has. And museums are part, of course, of the cultural sector. We have different industries with different aspects, different approaches. Museums are part of this scenario. What about museums and resilience? Well, I think that if we want to disentangle this relationship, we should talk about sustainability too, because sustainability and resilience are two connected concepts. In the museum sector, sustainability is closely connected to the museum, to each museum mission, because museums have to preserve cultural heritage and to maintain it for current and future generations. So museums are connected to sustainability. The last definition of museums provided by ICOM, the International Council of Museums, in 2022 stresses the role of sustainability in museums. And what about resilience? Well, resilience could be a means to achieve sustainability. Sustainability could be the goal, and resilience the way to achieve sustainability. Considering this premise, we analyzed the relationship between museums and resilience, approaching this relationship in a two-way relationship, a double approach. On the one hand, resilience could be considered a museum property, the capability to recover, the capability to implement actions to be more resilient. And in this case, we talk about museums as resilient organizations, of course, or not resilient organizations. It depends on what they do. On the other hand, museums are also organizations that can foster resilience, that can contribute to the resilience of a territory, of a community. From this point of view, resilience is an effect of their activity, and museums can be considered not just resilience organizations, but resilient agents because they have this active role. So this two-way relationship. What about the scientific debate on this topic? Well, what we identified, the gap we identified in the literature is that a holistic approach to museum resilience is still missing. There isn't any holistic systemic approach. Even though we recognize this double relationship, studies focus just on some aspects of museum resilience. For example, about the conservation of cultural heritage, many technical scientific studies studying the way to better preserve cultural heritage, or studies focused on the economic aspect, but not on resilience as a whole, as a holistic concept. For this reason, we developed this model and we analyzed the museum hit by the earthquake using this model. So this model tried to combine, as you can see, resilience in museums, being resilient, and the capability to foster resilience. So museums as resilient agents. And these are the main enabling factors of resilience. We drew from literature 3 main factors, 3 groups of factors: structures, people, and relationships. When we talk about structure, I mean the infrastructures, the facilities, the equipment, what museums have. So from a structural point of view, physical point of view. People, about human resources. We were talking in the previous presentation about the role of human resources, and it means adequate human resources in terms of training, qualification, and number, of course. And finally, relationships, networks, cooperation with other museums, with other cultural institutions and organizations, but also with other actors in the same area or not, to improve knowledge in the field of resilience and to improve some actions. So this is the model we used to analyze the museums of this crater, of the area of this region hit by the earthquake. How did we collect it? We collect data. So we collected our data from the Museum Information System. The Museum Information System is a database implemented by the Marche region, collecting information about all museums in this region. And this database provides information about museum legal status, financial status, staff, safety and security, collection management, services, and so on. We extracted the information just about this area, 122 museums. Many of them are very small museums. And here you can see in the graph on the right, museums that updated information about them in different years, from 2007 and 2017. As you can see, not all museums always update, periodically update their form, their information in the information system. And it is an element that can allow us to make some reflections about the capabilities they have, the human resources they have. Sometimes they do not have any resources to update these data. So the 3 groups, I want to repeat that: structure, people, and relationships. So equipment and facilities, information on a conservation system, inventory, storerooms, preservation materials, lighting, so all the technical aspects. Security system, risk assessment, human resources about the availability of sufficient and qualified personnel, and then the participation in networks. Here in this table, you can see the 3 dimensions on the left: structure, people, relationships, and then we also consider the services provided, the variable, and then the questions we consider to understand the situation of these museums. But I give the floor to Eleonora for continuing the presentation.
Just for the results, because as Mara said, this article, this work was about trying to find a methodology to organize all this information that comes from the evaluation or better self-assessment exercise. So each museum answered to all these questions, but even a lot of other questions. But we just selected the question that we consider interesting to assess the presence of, for example, security in the structure, so in the physical sites that host the museum, or, for example, the qualification of personnel in the area of people. And finally, as for relationship, we look at this kind of answer to question, like, for example, as the museum join a network or is part of a system of museum, or whether, for example, in the communication tools of the museum, they try to contextualize the collection within the territory. And so what we did was to classify the 122 museums into 4 clusters. We used a K-means method and suggest to the algorithm that there is a set of 4 clusters. And what we found was that these 4 clusters are composed by something like 25 to 30 museums, each of them with different score, let's say, for different domains. We use all the questions related to structure to have a sort of score. As for structure, another score is related to the extent or relationship with the territory, and the other one is related to the qualification of people that are working in the different museums. And what we found was these different groups that we classify according to the degree of resilience. And so we have incipient resilience, developing resilience, advanced resilience, and mature resilience that is composed by all the museums which are very high with all the different dimensions. So in general, and here you can find all the different score for the different area, equipment and facility. As for structure, you have all the different information, and people, so if they are the qualified conservation personnel, where there are shared personnel, for example, in a network of museum, and staff suitability is the quantitative, the number of persons that are employed in this different museum. And then you have the area of relationship. Well, of course, there are a lot of things to say about the different clusters, and here is just a summary of the results. And in the article, we have a lot of other information. For example, we can, of course, show that in inner area, there are a lot of very small museum, but interesting in terms of the relationship they have managed to create with the territory. So in a certain sense, this heterogeneity and the idea that you have a sort of growing resilience. Sometimes it is not confirmed by the data, because we have found, for example, that in this incipient cluster, there are some small museums that are very well connected with the territory, even if they have a lot of needs in terms of the qualified personnel that they should have, and they said they do not have, and particularly as for structure. What is this? We can say the common element for all this kind of different museum is that they have a need of human resource upgrading. And so we think that this project is very useful in this sense, because actually it's about skills, upskilling and skilling people that are in the tourism sector, and just focusing on the museum system we found, and you can see it from these diagrams, that people, that is the dimension in red, is the lowest in all the clusters. So it means that it's the area where all the museum in the different group, whether they have a good structure or good relationship, but they all need to, in a way, upgrade in terms of skills. So this is our main result, actually. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, maybe later during the aperitivo we'll have time to exchange ideas and questions. So thank you. This is a very impressive research, and so congratulations on this. And yeah, let's also in further research that we were developing during these years, we found out that really education and training is absolutely critical. So it's nice to be coherent also among us. Now I would like to introduce our final speaker, which is Davide Di Marco Berardino, PhD candidate and research fellow in Polytechnic University of Marche, with his research on regarding the floods that we had in Marche region in 2022. Riesci a trovare tu le slide? Ce le hai? Grande, non lo vedo. Più di questo.
No. Okay.
Grazie.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me today. It's a very pleasure for me to present some highlights of my work on the flood of 2022 Marche flood. This work was possible thank you to the collaboration with Caritas Senigallia that helped me a lot, and we can see after in the slides. But before to start to talk about the flood of Marche, I want to ask you a question, but what is a disaster? Because every time that we think about a disaster, we talk about earthquake, flood, wildfire, and a lot of things that for a part are natural. But sometimes we have something that we can do to not transform an event in a disaster. Because if we think about, I don't know, a hailstorm, for example, in the ocean, we don't call it a disaster. We call it a natural event. And then when the natural event match the socioeconomic condition, the socioeconomic vulnerabilities of the territories, we have a disaster. And we sometimes talk about natural disaster because we focus on the natural side of the problem. But sometimes we blame the nature for something that we can do. And this is one of the things that I read a lot, most in the literature, mostly in the recent time, that there are a lot of things that we can do to not transform an event in a disaster. There is also the Office of Disaster Reduction of the United Nations that don't want to call disaster natural disaster. I don't want to blame your project because it's okay, but there is a lot of work that talk about disaster and not natural disaster, but it's okay. Also in my article, there is natural disaster in the name and also in my PhD thesis, it's okay. But I want to give you this message and to think about together to this, because we talk about the natural problem, but we have to talk about what we have to do to not transform the event in disaster. Okay, now I can go to the flood on Senigallia, because as you know, I think 2 years, 1 year and a half from today, we have a big flood in the Marche region. It's a positive. We sometimes talk about Senigallia floods, but the portion of Marche that was affected was bigger than Senigallia. There are 14, 15 municipalities that are in the affected area. And a portion of this area, Senigallia, and some municipalities very close to Senigallia were affected by another flood in 2014. This picture for me is very impressive. It's from the flood 2022. For me, it's very impressive because we see the river, the small river, but we see the affected area that is in the brown, orange, I don't know, that is maybe 10, 15 times bigger than the river. Yeah, the event description. We have a lot of rainfall, a big rainfall, more than 400 millimeters of rain in some areas like Cantiano and Cerro Sant'Abbondio, but we have 12 fatalities and 2 billion of damage. One of the biggest problem was the complete absence of warning about the civil protection. Indeed, the civil protection classified this event as unforeseeable and millennial for the typology of the event. But the other fact was the very different impacts that the flood has on the territory. For example, we have some municipalities that are in the mountains, for example, Cerro Sant'Abbondio, and the measure talk about something like bombing, because the mountain, the Mount Catria, there were a lot of landslide, a lot of streets that were not passable for a long period. For example, the measure of Barbara talked about a pluvial tsunami because the water reached an height of something like 15 meters in some points of Barbara, and the classic flood of Senigallia when the river overflows. But the topography differences in the territory were very important because, yes, it was a flood, but very different city by city. A very brief literature review. The floods are the most significant disaster in the world, with the most number of fatalities and accounting for approximately 40% of all the damage from natural hazards. And as I said before, it's not the result of natural processes. Senigallia is built on the river, and the vulnerability of Senigallia are very difficult to be overcome because the river is inside the city. And then we have to prepare the people, to prepare the institution to mitigate the risk. When there is a natural event, it's not the primary problem. For example, yeah, the water and mud of the flood was the first big problem for Senigallia, for all the municipalities. But there are a lot of other effects called cascading effects that affect the population and institutions and emergency services. For example, power outages, impassable roads are problems that amplify the crisis of a disaster, of an event. And this was one of the focus of my research, to understand if people perceive these problems and how much are prepared for overcome this problem. Then, as I said before, I interviewed people and institutions. The citizens were involved through a questionnaire, an online survey, that was administered by Senigallia's Caritas to all the people that was affected by water and mud during the 2022 flood. For the institutional perspective, I interviewed a lot of measures, technical officer, humanitarian volunteers that worked in the emergency of Senigallia. And I have a sort of 9 municipalities or 13 of the affected municipalities that are in the institutional perspective that are involved. Sorry, okay, this is the sample of my questionnaire for the population, for the citizens. Yes, there is an underrepresentation of the over 65 because online survey are a problem for the older people, but it's not a problem because it's a case study that we don't want to represent all the population. And one of the questions that we asked to people was, what of this issue you experienced during the flood 2022? Yes, only the 10% of the population experienced only mud and water, but all the other effects were experienced by the majority of the population. And if, okay, for people, the problem of phone service is not a big problem because you can go to Instagram, you can go on Twitter, you can go on Facebook, but for emergency services, don't have the communication, not have the telecommunication during the emergency services is a big problem. And then the second question that I ask to people is, how much you are prepared for these issues? Yes, is very, very low because the scale is 0 to 3 and all the results are above 1. And yes, we have the 2 columns because we want to understand also if, yes, you have a flood 8 years before, you have to be more prepared now than 8 years before. And yes, in this first table, we see that the second column has a lot of higher value than the other one. But if we do, and it's the next slide, the regression to understand if there is any statistic significant results, we see that only for the water we have a significant higher preparedness for people, but it's very low. Again, it's 0.4 on a scale of 0 to 3. Then the level of preparedness for people is very, very low and very worrying because, as we can see after the slide, also the institution has this worry because, yeah, okay, this is the continue. Sorry, I lost my feel. As I said, yeah, institutions are preoccupied for this because they see people on the river during the warning, and if they have to think about to save people that are in danger and to save people that are on the river to take photos is a big problem. These are the 3 pinpoints of the people, and I said before in the statistics. But in my opinion, what emerged from the institutional perspective is more important. Because, yeah, this is the descriptive of what are the problems perceived by the institutions. And I want to highlight the several distribution because it's a problem that we don't think about, but the several distribution cause health problems and is a long problem for the territory to be recovered because there is, for example, the municipality of Pergola, if I remember well, that 1 year and a half after the event have not a several system that is now working and is a big problem for population. And I asked to the institution to describe the situation of emergency service during the flood. And I have some point to highlight. The first, I say something before, the operational viability is crucial. If you don't have streets that are available, you can't save people. You can't proceed with your saving operations, and especially it's a problem for vulnerable people. Sorry. One of the biggest problems was the small size of municipalities, because yes, Senigallia is 50,000 people approximately, but the most of the affected municipalities were very, very small. We talk about 1,000, 2,000 people in some municipalities, and this is a problem for the limited resources, but also for limited ability to manage with complex situations, and measure stress, the problem also after the event, because sometimes they have the money because the state give funds, but they don't have people to use the money. They don't have the technical staff to put the money on the ground, and the measure stress a lot this point. Obviously, I talked about, again, the smallest city as Cantiano, as Serra Sant'Abbondio, Sassoferrato. But it's a big problem that sometimes we don't think about, because we think about the funds, yeah. But if you can't put on the ground the funds, it's a problem bigger, because people blame you for this and not the region, because they know that you have the money. Disrupted communication is a problem, and I asked to people but to measure. It's the biggest problem to have the communication service working. As someone of the civil protection told me that no, the biggest problem is the fact that sometimes there are officers outside the region that don't know the territory. If you don't have a bridge, you can't pass the bridge. How you can reach the municipality that is on the other side of the river? That's the local knowledge is crucial. Before of me, the president of Red Cross told about that it's important the local involvement. Yes, because it's important to have some general guidance for all the municipality, but one of the lessons that we have to learn about the Senigallia's flood, the market flood, is the importance of local involvement. The characteristics of the territory are very important, and a flood in Senigallia is very different from a flood in Cantiano. It is very different than a flood of Rome, are different cities with different problems. And obviously, loss of utilities, as you see before, they don't have power, they don't have gas, and then they don't have food. They can't make food, and it's maybe a small problem, but can become a big problem. And here there was a very synergy between Caritas and civil protection to divide the territory. There was a point for the civil protection in Austria to give food to the people, and there was another point from Caritas in Senigallia to give food to people. Yeah, there is the looting. Before in the slide, we see that some measure told me about some episode of looting during the evacuees' homes, but there are a lot of volunteers that help population during the event to clean home, to free the street from the mud. But if volunteers are uncoordinated, is a problem, an additional problem. There are a lot of contributions that in literature that talked about the fact that sometimes volunteers are a problem to deal with. But the experience of 2014 helped Caritas Senigallia, but also the municipality of Senigallia to work together. In this case, there was the Caritas that manage all the volunteers on the territory. They map the territory. They know where there is the need for people to have volunteer in the home, and they send the volunteer to the home. And this was important both for volunteers, both for population, but also for the municipality, because the problem was for Caritas and not for them. And what I was saying before, lesson learned, because during the warning alert that the municipality of Senigallia gave to the population, they have to save people that was on the river to take photos, to take videos, to put them in the social network. And the other part of the population was blaming the municipality for a fake alert, because in Senigallia, when there was the alert, there was the sun, because it was not raining a lot in Senigallia. It was raining a lot in the mountains. In Senigallia, the rain was not so much, and people say, "Why you are alerting me for this? There is the sun, there are no rain," but the river arrived and overflowed. Then the institution has also to save people from the river, and this problem is a big problem. Is the distrust in institutions. This is a very important signal, because if you are in danger and you don't trust institutions, it's difficult also to overcome this problem because I don't know how it can be overcome. And yes, the problem was the delayed warning, because the first municipality that alert protection was the municipality that alert civil protection, and not the contrary, as it has to be. And this hindering responding and exacerbating the issues of a big event. I think that I am in my conclusion, and these are the 5 take-home message that I want to give you today. And I think that I tell everything, maybe. Yeah, I want to highlight the last point, maybe, the fact that Senigallia built on its experience in 2014. They update their emergency plan. They involve humanitarian organization also in the municipality center of criticity, that it's open when there is a catastrophe. And inside this organization, there are also humanitarian organizations that talk with institutions, with civil protection, with the firefighters, and try to help together to find together a solution to better help people. But the urgent need for public education, because we talk about earthquake, and I think that everyone during the education period receive a sort of earthquake education on what you have to do during an earthquake, but maybe no one receives the same for flood, for wildfire. And then maybe we have to change our mind to understand that it can be possible that a flood occur also also where the river is not here, because a lot of the municipalities that were affected by the flood, they don't have a river. That it's incredible to think about, but for example, Serra Santa Bondo is on a mountainside, and they has the biggest damage for the infrastructure, that everyone can be hit by a flood, and we have to educate ourselves to this. Thank you for listening. If you have a question, I'm here to respond. It was not an attack.
Joking in effect, but it's true the definition you said about about disaster and the presence of the two-dimension vulnerability and disaster. But it's also true that there are some disaster that in which you can't define or overcome vulnerability. So there are some natural disasters in the sense that there are disaster and natural disaster. And the natural disaster for, I don't know, United Nations or for other international organizations are the disaster in which you can't define a structure to overcome the vulnerability. So
it was not an attack. I'm not a Taliban of this, but there are a lot of, no, I met some people that is a sort of Taliban of this. And if you said natural disaster, they kill you or something like that. That, yeah, the fact is, in my opinion, is only the change of mind, because every time that there is a big rain, a big earthquake, or a small earthquake sometimes, we tell, okay, it's a natural disaster. And it's sometimes, not every time, a way to blame someone else for our responsibility. This is my opinion. It's not of the definition. I don't care of the definition. It's not my war. It's the war of someone else. But the change of mind that maybe the definition can be to not blame every time the nature for some vulnerability that we have. Yes, we sometimes have vulnerability that we can't overcome, but are our vulnerabilities, human vulnerabilities. Yes. a lot of time. For example, again, Senigallia is difficult to, it's difficult that Senigallia overcame its vulnerability in a very short time. But the vulnerability of the river of Senigallia is built by the man, not by the nature.
But I want to assure you there are sometimes that vulnerability, it's there, you can't overcome.
Yeah, for example, also the flood in Senigallia, because 400 millimeters of rain in 4 hours are very difficult to overcome. No, me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, David, and also Grazia for the comment. So also one element of the what enhanced David is really central, prevention and learning from previous experiences must serve as, future, prevention and education for territories and so on. So really, really thank you for the patience, for the endurance of today's meeting and for your precious contributions. So I really thank the people online and the people that have participated until now to the meeting. And if nobody wants to add anything in particular, we can close today's conference. And I really thank you. Yes, I really thank you for your presence and contribution, and long life to return and to this type of initiatives. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Marina. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Ok, chiudiamo allora la diretta.